In this video, we're going to talk all about the chain stitch. The chain stitch is a fantastic hand embroidery stitch. It is a decorative stitch that can be used for both line work and for fill space. So if you're looking to fill in a big space within your project, this is a really cool stitch to use. I personally like it because it kind of looks like a knit or woven fabric when you get all done. So I think it just adds a really cool texture to projects. So we're going to walk through a step-by-step tutorial for how to do the chain stitch, and then I'm going to show you the chain stitch in action. I'll actually be working on a little project so you can kind of see the types of things that you can work on when you're using the chain stitch. Let's dive right in. Start by bringing your needle up through the fabric. You can use your thumb to help keep the strand in place off to the side. Next, bring the needle back down very close to where you brought your needle up through the fabric, but not in the exact same spot. Pull your needle through the fabric, but be sure to leave a loop on the top side of the fabric. Bring your needle up one stitch length away and put the loop around the needle. Catching the loop with your needle will get easier as we get stitching, and our stitching motion becomes more fluid and more comfortable. Now you're going to pull your needle the rest of the way through the fabric. Be careful not to pull too tight or your loop will flatten. If you do pull too tight, just use your needle to carefully release some of the pressure from the loop until it's round again. Now, what we've done so far is very similar to the lazy daisy stitch, but instead of anchoring our loop by placing the needle back down outside of the loop, like we do for the lazy daisy stitch, we're actually going to bring the needle back down inside that first loop, again, close to where your needle came up. Stay with me now. Don't pull the needle all the way through the fabric. Instead, you're going to use your thumb to anchor the strand of floss while you create another loop. Next, you're going to once again bring your needle back up one stitch length away, catching the new loop as you pull the strand through the fabric. You're going to bring your needle back down inside that second loop to create a third loop, and the process continues. Bring your needle up one stitch length away and catch the new loop. Now, keep in mind, you can adjust the size of your loops or the links in your chain to work for your project. So you can make smaller loops or bigger loops, whatever happens to work for you. Here I'm using pretty large loops, but you can also make them smaller. To end your chain stitch, you're going to bring your needle back down outside of your last loop to anchor your stitches or your chain in place. And don't forget to tie a knot on the back of your project so that it doesn't unravel. Next, let's see the chain stitch in action. In this example, I'm going to be using a chain stitch to fill in a pumpkin using one of my stick and stitch pumpkin stickers. I'm planning to leave a little space at the edges of my pumpkin fill so I can outline it with a whipped back stitch when I'm all done filling in each section of the pumpkin. Be sure to stick around until the end so you can see the final results. Now I usually start by stitching along the edge of the space I want to fill in, and then I'll gradually work row by row until the space is nicely filled. In this project, I'm actually using all 6 strands of DMC floss to add more dimension to this pumpkin. I want it to look kind of full and kind of like a knit or maybe a sweater or a chunky yarn. And in fact, you could totally use this stitch with a yarn. I would probably avoid one that's too chunky, but a nice thin yarn would work really well, or even a pearl cotton would be really nice. I'm choosing to use 6-strand floss because I have it on hand. It's something that I have in my studio that I use all the time. I also know that DMC floss is pretty color fast, and since I'm using my stick and stitch stickers, which wash away in water, I know I'm going to have to submerge this in water, so I need to be using color fast floss, and DMC is usually pretty good at that. So those are the reasons why I like to use DMC floss, and I also just love the color options with DMC 6-strand floss. But don't be afraid to try some other fibers too and get creative with your project. So I've sped up this video so that you can see the end results faster, but if you'd like to see a real-time or a step-by-step pumpkin stitching tutorial, let me know in the comments below.
All I want
here are the final results. So how do you think you'll use the chain stitch? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to follow along. I do even more hand embroidery tutorials, vlogs all about my embroidery and quilting business, and I would love to share all of that experience with you. Until next time, friends.